This is going to be a short GGN video. I always say that, but I guarantee this will. I only have 3, 4, 5 articles, and I meant to include them in the last video because I was talking about the Middle East, and with Iran definitely being authorized to be a global player in that region, the head of that region, that trading bloc. And when they were done with the Syrian deal, when they wrapped up this whole Syrian crisis, as far as that threat goes, that they were going to move to like Africa or maybe focus on Asia, and maybe that's what it is. Then comes this Iran deal out of nowhere. So, and I've covered too about the increasing of troops by the UN, by France, by the United States, in Africa, training and all that, creating teams and new bases. I remember I was mentioning about terrorism hitting China, although the Chinese media on that wasn't really mentioning it or covering it as such. I include this at the end of the report. I'm just going to go through this just a little bit more. Militant group says Tiananmen attack in China was jihadi operation. A murky Islamic militant group has described a deadly attack in China's Tiananmen Square last month as a jihadi operation and warned of more violence to come, according to basically the website. So, the Turkestan Islamic Party said those who carried out the attack in the heavily policed center of Beijing were mujahideen. So remember what I talked about, wherever the Zionists or the Western powers want to go to either create refugees or exploit the resources, or get basically probably low-wage workers as well, Al-Qaeda will go. And then they go to squash the war on terror or help fight the terrorists. Even in Japan here, I hardly ever come across stuff like this in Japan. Homemade launchers likely fired at this air base. A homemade cannon likely fired projectiles at a Yokota air base on Thursday night, according to U.S. and Japanese officials. Residents near the base, which serves as a headquarters for U.S. forces, Japan, reported explosions at around 11:30 p.m. So here we go with the whole left-wing, right-wing crap, right? An anti-U.S. military left-wing extremist group known as Kukurukoyo, whatever, is carried out similar attacks. The group is thought to be responsible for homemade mortar rockets found in November 2009 just outside the base. So I guess maybe they were left-wing, but I know that there's right-wing type nationalists, Japanese nationalists, that are anti-American as well. You've probably seen this. China declares willing to engage in a protracted confrontation with Japan as prime target. They also declared this new air defense zone last 2 days. So Japanese lawmakers are pushing for a bill demanding an immediate withdrawal of China's whatever it is, while the Western world goes on its merry way buying S&P futures. China's concluding message rings its most defiant so far. We are willing to engage in a protracted confrontation with Japan. Our ultimate goal is to beat its willpower and ambition to instigate strategic confrontation against China. Last week, China declared its air defense identification zone, and that move sparked strong resistance from Japan, the U.S., South Korea, and other neighboring Asian nations. The new zone partly overlaps those of South Korea and Japan. Then U.S. B-52s flew over China's controversial new air zone or air defense zone. The 2 U.S. aircraft flew into their newly claimed challenge air defense zone over East China Sea. They said they weren't armed because they were on a training mission. I'm not sure if this is what they're talking about. U.S.-Japan war games amid China's zone dispute. They're taking part in a huge naval exercise involving dozens of warships, submarines, and aircraft off the island of Okinawa. All right, I told you I'd keep it short. That's all I have for you. This is GGN. Thank you.